on this edition of Husky News Network. Grassroots protests against President-elect Donald Trump continue throughout the nation.
It makes you think, what kind of country do we have here? And you just kind of have to go out. You don't even think about it. You just go out and say no.
A group of activists are fostering conversations about racial justice. And a charity teaches young adults with disabilities to play music. All that and more on this edition of Husky News Network.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Husky News Network. I'm Danae Bucci.
And I'm Ellie Williams. Boston city officials joined the national protest against President-elect Donald Trump at a rally on the steps of the State House. This was just the latest in many protests happening across the country. Reporter Elijah Kaplan takes a look at this anti-Trump movement.
Citizens have come out to voice their concerns about the election of Donald Trump in more than 80 cities across the country, including Boston. Starting the night after the election, protesters voiced their outrage and determination.
Trump got elected, that's the reality. Now we need to mobilize against him. So we got to start movements to challenge every single right-wing thing that he does.
Often, students are leading these demonstrations. Here at Northeastern, the group Students Against Institutional Discrimination gathered on Centennial Common.
There's a lot of people hurting right now after the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States. They're thinking about this, and we definitely just wanted to provide them with a forum to say the things that they're feeling in a safe environment, and that's what we did.
Mayor Marty Walsh voiced his support for the movement on the steps of the State House.
We will protect our neighbors. We will stand up to hate in all forms. We will move civil rights forward, not backwards.
Northeastern anthropology professor Jeffrey Juris says Trump is unlike any candidate he's seen before.
What happened was the right was much more powerful than we had imagined, the radical right. And so you have Donald Trump coming to power, not just as a regular Republican, but as somebody who's really building his campaign around the white supremacy movement. Focusing on building a wall, focusing on Mexican rapists, focusing on rounding and not letting Muslims in. So all these things that made people very afraid. Nobody in my lifetime has done that. So defensive politics necessarily means proactive organizing and building a big grassroots populist agenda. And people, I think, know that viscerally. And now it's figuring out how do we do that. And so I think that's where we are.
Though protesters are voicing their fears of the president-elect's policies, the transfer to a Trump White House moves forward. With further protests planned in the coming months, it remains to be seen if these protests are the beginning of a larger movement or if they will die down once Trump takes office. For HNN, I'm Elijah Kaplan.
Thank you, Elijah. Now, protesting isn't the only way students can have their voices heard, is it, Danae?
That's right, Ellie. With social media, it's not hard to find a platform for your ideas. In fact, a Northeastern student is making national headlines after his comments about the Second Amendment went viral. This is what Tausif Ahassan said at an anti-Trump protest in November, quote, "Exercise your Second Amendment right. Make the NRA regret giving us the right to bear arms," end quote. The Huntington News published his comments, which were picked up by Breitbart. The Breitbart story went viral online, receiving more than 18,000 shares on Facebook. Ahassan feels his comments have been taken out of context.
The speech I gave was pretty short. I think it was 3 or 4 minutes. The comment that the Huntington News reported on was 2 lines that I kind of ad hoc made. That comment, exercise your Second Amendment rights, is about taking that issue away from the Republicans and reframing how the NRA has been discussing the issue, because that's really where we're losing.
Editor-in-chief Sam Haas of the Huntington News says his paper stands by the story and that it was a fair and balanced report of the said protest. Breitbart did not respond to our request for comment. Ahassan says he has received personal reactions from strangers on social media, but nothing overly upsetting to him. He told reporters he doesn't blame Breitbart for publishing his quote and that he wishes he had been more clear in his message.
Now, the 2016 presidential race was a very controversial topic in America, one that's been covered extensively in the media. 5 Boston reporters talked to a group of Northeastern journalism students about what it was like covering the election.
Also, how the candidates It was great speaking to Northeastern students, and it was amazing how many questions they had. You could tell they were really journalism majors here, and a lot of really good questions and kind of thought-provoking questions just about the election, the media coverage of it, and obviously I think everyone was reporters and even people that have been doing this for years and years are pretty shocked and stunned by the election results, because I think people kind of came in with an idea that maybe this was Hillary Clinton's election, and then all of a sudden Donald Trump wins in places like Ohio and Wisconsin, and totally came out of nowhere. And I think that was a big shock in a lot of newsrooms across the country.
There have been a lot of intense conversations in America following the election. For some, the focus is on division. For others, unity. Here in Boston, a group is using improv theater to start conversations on racial justice.
Asian Americans have long been considered to be a non-political group in the United States, but community organizers in Boston are trying to change that. Activists with the Asian Pacific Islanders for Black Lives have teamed up with college students to foster conversations about anti-Black racism and what Asian Americans can do to fight it.
I know there's interest in talking about anti-Blackness and in talking about class at Tufts in the Asian American community, and I think that those are really important conversations to have. So that was kind of where I was coming from in wanting to plan this event.
We have a working group for APIs for Black Lives, and it's on wealth redistribution. So we've been meeting over the course of the last few months to build a workshop, and it's kind of shifted to more focus on economic justice, wealth redistribution, and how both of those things connect to our solidarity with Black communities.
The workshop included a brief lecture by Bishop on the connections between racial equality and wealth distribution, as well as small group discussions and a skit acted out by participants to show ways people can talk to their families about racial justice issues.
Implicated in? How are we in any ways implicated in this? Do you not consider yourself like a racial minority? I mean, yeah, I do, but it's different. How? We're Asian. I don't really think that this has anything to do with us.
I really hope that the conversations will continue, especially for people with class privilege, because I think that those are the people who are the most class evasive. So that is my hope. And if not, we'll continue to do these things.
APIs for Black Lives plans to continue hosting workshops around Boston, especially since the holiday break will give students an opportunity to go home and have these difficult conversations with their families.
It's great that so many college students are getting involved in activism, but what about those who can't get into college in the first place? For most Americans, the goal of getting a higher education is nothing new, but those living in rural Uganda, getting through primary school is tough, and getting a higher education is a far-off dream. One Back Bay resident is trying to make that dream a reality for many Ugandan children through the Arlington Academy of Hope.
When Joshua Sims' aunt founded the Arlington Academy of Hope in 2004, he knew that it was something he wanted to be a part of. In 2011, he got his first opportunity to do so by taking a trip to visit the school and bring some much-needed supplies to the town.
It's very rural. They don't have a whole lot of electricity. They have no running water.
Now currently on his 5th trip to Uganda, he's taking a much larger role in the organization by creating a campaign to raise $25,000 to send the graduates of AAH to college.
They come from kind of the underdog community of their country. And so they see the poverty, they've lived in it, they understand the problems. And so to empower these students through education to be able to change those problems in the future, I think is incredibly important.
Empowerment and an opportunity that most children from this region of Uganda are not accustomed to.
And before, before we had a school like this, the school system was doing really pretty poorly. And it was just repeating of generations and generations of peasants and farmers with no real access to any type of resource that would ever help them progress their life past that.
Now with the chance to go to a school system focused on the growth of its students, the children of Bumwalakani and Bupado are facing a much different challenge.
So right now we have a whole lot of students that have graduated from secondary school and they have really high marks and they're able to get into top universities, but they don't have the money to do so. So this is a problem, but it's a good problem in a sense because we didn't really think that we would be passing students with this great grades. So we are trying to raise that money and be able to get these students into those universities.
With so much at stake for these kids, getting a higher education is their #1 priority despite all the adversity they face. As Nelson Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. To donate, you can visit www.fundraise.com/Arlington Academy of Hope.
Joshua Sims isn't the only one helping kids achieve their dreams. The folks over at the Muse Foundation are bringing music and social connection to the lives of Boston area children. Natasha Chang filed this report on the Muse Foundation.
The whole purpose of Muse is to help students have a peer connection with each other and to foster social connection. We find students that have a love for music and want to have involvement in a rock band. Sadly, after school ends, a lot of special education students aren't given as much opportunity to interact with peers.
It started off with a private lesson for her student Shri, which then grew into a small band and resulted with a concert for friends and family.
It was like just a moment where like there wasn't even any processing behind it besides just like this is like one of the most joyous moments of my life.
It makes me feel happier. I get to see more people I know and more people I've never met before.
Because it's tricky for these young people to build up social relationships. And that's, for me, the number one thing, because she has an opportunity to be in the limelight and to shine and to have people look at her and say, wow.
We're in some ways working so hard to build this great thing while we're flying it. You know, I want Muse to be successful. I want Muse to be something that is around for like the young adults who are playing in our bands now. I want them to still be able to play in our bands like 20 years from now.
It was so great to see how happy the students are, and it really made me so happy to, you know, to share that happiness with them.
Here with us in studio now is Natasha. Hi, Natasha.
Hi.
Quickly, could you tell us about your experience at the Muse Foundation?
Well, what I can tell you is that it was just a very moving experience. Just to see how big of an impact that music has on these kids was a real joy to be in the room with them.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming in.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks again for stopping in, Natasha. There are many cafes and bakeries in Boston, but the Oakleaf Cakes Bake Shop says they take the cake. Located on Mass Ave, right in the northeastern neighborhood, this cafe and bakery is definitely on our bucket list. HNN's Naya Gonzalez went to check it out.
And the Food Network, this bakery has become world famous for their beautifully crafted artistic cakes. The Oakleaf Cakes Bake Shop employs Boston artists and bakes everything from scratch with real ingredients.
Make everything from scratch on site. Stuff comes in as bags of sugar and flour and leaves, looking like the cakes that you see, so there's a lot of hours that happen.
People come in with all sorts of crazy ideas for cake that they want us to come up with, and I've never heard us turn something down because, you know, oh, that's too weird, or that's too difficult, or that's too complicated. So I think that's pretty special.
All of our staff is very talented. There's bakers, decorators, artists. Most everybody who works here is an artist of some sort. Every week and every day is totally different because the weeks revolve around custom cakes. On Sunday we make like all the lists of what we need to make, what we need to bake, what we need to prep for frosting, what we need to bake for extra decorations. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is doing like prep work. So for bakers it's like making cookie doughs and making whatever. And then the decorators make like the sugar flowers and the figurines and stuff. Saturday is when most of the cakes are due. So that's kind of the process.
We did a cake for Symphony Hall that was like stacked instruments. And you don't get to do that a lot of places. And someone comes in and is like, can you make a cello out of cake? I'm like, well, yes, actually, we can do that for you.
Oakleaf Cakes really is a special place. The cakes look amazing and they taste amazing too. It's a great place to grab a coffee and enjoy some delicious treats. For HNN, I'm Naya Gonzalez.
Those cakes really looked amazing. Thanks, Naya.
You know, Danae, I actually went to Oakleaf and picked you up some little cupcakes. So we have these very adorable cupcakes, and there's a little Christmas tree cookie as well. Like this little reindeer cupcake doesn't look too difficult at all, does it? And
no.
It's definitely something you and I could do.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
So, you know, speaking of the holidays, winter break is just around the corner. And, you know, to all of our stressed out Huskies, good luck on finals. make sure you hydrate. And remember, winter break is just around the corner. For HNN, I'm Ellie Williams.
And I'm Danae Bucci. Thanks for watching.